Hello, and welcome to this ranking video of the Fourth Doctor's costumes. I'm a massive fan of the Fourth Doctor, so I lavish any opportunity I have to talk about him. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a countdown on my favourite costumes of his. There isn't really enough to make this a top 10, so I thought I'd go the next best thing and just talk about all of his on-screen outfits. So, without further ado, let's get to it. And before anybody tries to be smart, no! All those 10 post-regeneration looks like the Clown or the Viking or the King will not be counted. We're talking strictly main costumes here, people. Season 15 brought with it a new way for the Fourth Doctor's costume to be styled. While maintaining the chestnut brown frock coat from the previous season, for this season it had some alterations. For one thing, there was a whole new scarf commissioned for it, and while admittedly it was only used in 3 stories of the season, in combination with the brown chestnut coat, it was certainly striking in its own way. In my humble opinion, the look itself is just way too cluttered for me to enjoy. The scarf is much too wide to the extent of which the Doctor is having to drape it over him. It completely drowns the entire outfit in a way the scarf never did before or did since. Unfortunately, I'm not really a fan of it. Added to that as well is the white cravat, which I'm also on the fence about. If it was any other colour it may have worked, but the white cravat and the white shirt is a very odd combo. Of all the Fourth Doctor costumes, I feel like this one is discussed the least, and it's not difficult to see why. It's definitely one of the least popular looks, and it's certainly my least favourite. With that said, Tom was still able to carry it off with his usual gusto, so I'm not saying it looks horrible or anything like that, it just looks a bit too cluttered. The Talons of Rain Chiang. Okay, I've got to give credit where credit is due, but this look is good. I honestly like the majority of looks on this list, some I just prefer more than others. The Talons look for the Fourth Doctor just so happens to be nearer the unfortunate end of the spectrum, which is more reflective of the quality that has been put out there. I mean, everything has been pretty good, but something's got to be low. But my god, it doesn't pull any punches with the Sherlock Holmes homage at all. There is just so much to gaze at. There's a lot going on in this costume, from the deerstalker, to the cloak, to the waistcoat, to the jacket itself, and the patterns therein. It's all very standout, but alas, that does suit the story it belongs in. It's genuinely a very cool ensemble that is deservedly adored. My only problem with it is that, well, it doesn't feel right seeing the Fourth Doctor leave the TARDIS without his scarf in tow. The man loves his scarves. But then again, it may have overcrowded the entire look. I mean, the season 18 colour scheme of scarf probably would have suited it, but hey, we'll never know. Bottom line is, it is an exemplarily designed costume. I just don't know if it suits Tom Baker's Doctor. The Sherlock Holmes homage is particularly amusing when you consider that only 5 years later after this story is broadcast, Tom would actually be playing Sherlock Holmes in a serial of Hound of the Baskervilles. I'm yet to see it, but I will eventually. If you have, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Season 16 and 17, Beige Coat. Honestly, this is of course well regarded as one of the Fourth Doctor's most famous and distinctive looks within fandom, and it's not difficult to see why. It's a pretty iconic look, and certainly one of the 2 most casual Fourth Doctor looks. This particular ensemble first debuted in Season 16's The Power of Kroll, and was featured in 6 stories ending in Season 17's The Horns of Nimon, which coincidentally was the last appearance of the Fourth Doctor's multicoloured scarves before he switched to burgundy for Season 18. And of course, that's taking Charter out of the equation. You know why. Anyway, I really do like this look. Honestly, I do. There are little touches that I like, such as the painter pins in City of Death. They make for a lovely little added visual touch. Admittedly, this is my least favourite style of the Fourth Doctor's coat, but I still do enjoy the overall look, and I am aiming to cosplay it one day. My only complaint about it really is that the beige coat, grey trousers and white shirt make it feel a little bit washed out, and the only thing left to highlight it is the scarf. And let's just talk about the scarf for a moment. My favourite thing about this whole look is how staggeringly insane the scarf's length is. It is bloody ridiculous, so much so that it is literally 2 of the earlier scarves that Tom wore stitched together to create an 18-foot super scarf. Looped around the Doctor, it really gives that eccentric vibe to the proceedings, and I can't help but utterly adore it. I only wish the rest of the outfit had a little bit more contrast to it, but there's one that we'll get into later that has just what I was looking for. Season 13 and 15, Grey Coat. Moving on to the other light coat on the list, this particular look is absolutely stellar in its own right. It has a particularly nice way about it on the eyes, and while not the most iconic of Tom's looks, it was certainly oddly utilised within his tenure, being used constantly or not at all for long periods. This version of the Doctor's costume debuted in Season 13's The Android Invasion, and lasts all the way up until Season 15's The Sunmakers, despite skipping Season 14 altogether. It featured in 6 stories. It feels like it featured in more than that, but yeah. What I like about this outfit is how it puts forth that real Bohemian Traveller vibe that you get with this era of Tom's costumes, as opposed to his more later cosmic hobo costumes. Here we have the grey tweed coat contrasting nicely with the Prince of Wales check waistcoat, which in itself is one of the longest serving 4th Doctor costume pieces. Combine this with the red tie and stand-up collar, and you honestly have a look that is rather delectably fancy, like a character you'd expect to be described wistfully in a novel.
The Bohemian Traveller took his stance proudly atop the rock, his long grey tweed coat flaring in the wind as his scarf of many colours trailed behind him.
Or something like that. Hopefully it didn't sound too pretentious. Okay, maybe it did a little. Anyway, let's move on. Season 16 and 17, Brown Coat. Okay, I know what I said about that whole Bohemian Traveller shtick, but at the same time, I have a huge appreciation for this particular look. It's the other one of the 4th Doctor's casual looks, and in my humble opinion, this works just better than the beige. Even though it does feel like this variant gets paid dust sometimes. Still, it adds some much needed contrast, which breaks it all up a bit. Now, having originated from the casual era of Tom's outfit, this one continued utilising the chestnut brown velvet frock coat, and started off in Season 16's The Stones of Blood, although the same basic look had been used for the first 2 stories of the season, just with a white cravat, which I don't feel was quite as cool. The cravatless version went on to appear in 4 stories, and yes, I am including the unfinished Sharda. This did start the trend of the unbuttoned waistcoats for the 4th Doctor, and was instrumental in his dressing down, especially when you compare it to the outfits that he wore earlier in his era. He's gone from almost Victorian with a long scarf to cosmic hobo with a hyper long scarf, and all it took was a loosened waistcoat, an open collar, and a battered coat. You could also see this as the Doctor getting more and more comfortable with himself. I was never quite sure of the logic behind it, though one can probably tie it to Tom Baker himself. He did have a good amount of pull in the Graham Williams era, for better or for worse. I really think this look is great though, and it does suit this Doctor incredibly well. With that said though, there is something about those early looks that do hold a special place in my heart, as I will soon be talking about. Season 14, Brown Coat. Ah, the true Bohemian strikes once more, with a familiar costume setup. The Doctor wears his more formal outfit style, which was near enough traditional for him at that point. The main difference was that this was the look that saw in the chestnut brown velvet frock coat, which went on to stay until the end of the Graham Williams era. And this one was an in-universe replacement for the burgundy frock coat that had been left by the Doctor on Gallifrey in The Deadly Assassin. The ensemble only ever appeared in 2 stories, mind you, having first appeared in Face of Evil and then ending in the following story, The Robots of Death. In the next season he'd get a new, wider scarf as I explained earlier, which didn't quite work as well, but that's just my personal opinion. Despite the brevity of its appearances, I really do think this look is sublime. It's in the same camp as the Android Invasion look, that it looks so formal, yet so stylishly eccentric. Also, it's worth noting that Tom Baker's sideburns are pretty mighty throughout this period. Season 12, Red Safari Jacket. Now this is the 4th Doctor in his first, and yet one of his most quirky and recognisable guises, one that in itself is absolutely iconic. Now this, I feel, despite being chronologically first, bridges the gap between the upper-class Bohemian Traveller style, as I like saying so much, and the casual cosmic hobo style that Tom had in his early and latter parts of his era, and as an introductory look to him, it absolutely helped in selling the character a lot. The look itself is a little bit cluttered, but that's not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to this costume. We have the green patterned neckerchief, the patterned shirt, and the Argyle cardigan, which makes for a strong visual, one that is still a railway from the frills and the velvet of his immediate predecessor. Fun fact, it was designed by James Aikson, who also went on to design the Spider-Man costume used in Sam Raimi's legendary trilogy. Having appeared in this combination for the entirety of Season 12, which was rather serialised to an extent, it certainly made an impression as one of the most distinct outfits the Doctor has ever worn in the show, and I adore it. It's definitely one of my favourite looks, and it's only beaten by a couple of others. I also have to give a special mention to the combination seen in Terror of the Zygons and Planet of Evil. They are a stellar transitional look which combine elements of the Season 12 and Season 13 outfits perfectly, and they look rather fancy. The race coat with the red safari jacket is definitely a good look. So, this time I have to be totally honest, I cannot choose between my next two choices. They're both absolutely iconic looks, symbolising the character both in the prime of his life and at the somber end of his life. And my preference between the two simply depends on which day you ask me. So without further ado, my two number ones are the Season 18 burgundy look and the Season 13 burgundy look. That probably says something about me, really. Well, in any case, we'll do this chronologically. Season 13's burgundy look is absolutely beautiful. In my opinion, it has that distinct bit of colour about it that pops out at me and makes it just have a softer vibe about it than the darker brown coat. And I also say the scarf is probably at its optimal length in comparison with the rest of the outfit. It really just screams the Fourth Doctor at his prime of guises. Statistically once more, this look appeared in 4 stories, starting in Season 13's Pyramid of Mars and ending in Season 14's The Deadly Assassin, where the coat was, regrettably as I said earlier, abandoned on Gallifrey, which is a shame as I really adore this look. It's just prim and proper, and I really like the use of cravats as well, they're pretty cool, and are really certainly appropriate for a man who walks in eternity. Either Season 12 or this one are probably regarded as the most famous of the Fourth Doctor looks, and in all honesty, it's for good reason. Season 18, on the other hand, well, I just adore this one for different reasons. In terms of its entire look, it is both similar to what came before, but in some ways completely different. It was part of the whole new stylized vibe that incoming showrunner John Nathan Turner brought to the show, and it was indeed a divisive choice. Some people hate this outfit, and I totally get it, but some people, like me, absolutely adore it, and just think it's stellar. To me, it's iconic like the Season 13 outfit in the way that it symbolised a new time for the show. It was moving into the 80s, and JNT really did his best to modernise the aesthetics of the show. Did he succeed? I personally think he did, as Season 18 is one of my all-time favourite seasons, if not my favourite season ever of the classic era. Back to the costume. It featured in all the stories throughout Season 18 and was slowly taken apart piece by Peter Davison in Season 19's Castrovalva. A sad end to such an outfit. The scarf is one I absolutely adore. Designed by June Hudson, it repurposes the outfit into something garish yet somber, and I love that vibe. And dare I say, the question marks actually really work for this outfit. I know they are sometimes seen as questionable, but in this one, I honestly feel they work fantastically, because the shirt itself is such a weird and alien design that, hey, why shouldn't the Doctor have question marks on them? They're fairly faint compared to the more overt nature of them through 5, 6 and 7's outfits too, so their usage of them may be a little bit more divisive, but I support them on Tom's. The massive greatcoat too. I love it personally. It makes for such a dark look for Tom, but at the same time, it works. Despite all the behind the scenes incidents, I do feel he put on a very good performance, and he carried the costume well as the Fourth Doctor at the end of his life. That is why this costume is beloved by me. They're all ranging from good to fantastic in their own ways through the art of costume design. And at the end of it all, is a simple case of personal preference.
Well, there's absolutely no better way of showing you guys how much of a Season 18 fanboy I truly am than by just showing you the scarf I knitted for it. So I've taken up knitting at a fairly youngish age, like about when I was 14, 15, and this is probably the magnum opus, the best thing I'll ever do, and I am just enamored with that outfit, so I just got a pattern and thought I'd do it. So yeah, I'm probably well in the minority when it comes to loving this outfit so much, but hey, I'm not complaining. It's a really cool design, and hopefully I've done it justice.
So that's my preference when it comes to Tom Baker's outfits. What about you though? What's your favourite outfit? What order would you put them in? And what is your least favourite outfit? Do let me know in the comments section below. And as always, feel free to like, comment and subscribe if you want to see videos more like this one. So, without a doubt, have a great day, night, whatever it is. Whatever period of time you're currently inhabiting at this present moment, I hope it's a good one. So, until next time, see ya!